I like this standing room only at a CTE caucus meeting. This is fantastic. And I'm not surprised. I think there's a lot of cool things going on in education in this country, but in my view, the coolest is an incredible renaissance and interest in career and technical education. And I want to welcome you to this Employer's Perspective Forum and thank everybody who's participating, especially our panelists. I know Tamar was probably introducing them as I was coming up. I think you're in for a really interesting discussion. A little bit of background. Some of you know my story, so I'll make it short, but some of you may not. I grew up working in my dad's ironworking and welding shop. He was an ironworker organized shop in the stockyards of Kansas City, and really came to appreciate the value of career and technical training because of the artistry of the people that I worked with. I then went to Mizzou and went to Harvard Law School, and in the middle of my time at Harvard, took a year off to work with Jesuit missionaries in Honduras, and they looked at my law training and said, that's completely irrelevant. What can you do? But when they heard about my dad, they put me in charge of a school that taught kids to be welders and carpenters, which was an amazing experience, and that developed an additional passion for CTE. As a mayor of Richmond and then as governor, we put a lot of programs in place to try to drive high-quality career and technical training, whether in middle schools and high schools, or community colleges and colleges, or union apprenticeship programs, or in non-traditional settings like, highly verified or validated online computer coding academies. There's a lot of different ways for folks to get CTE skills, and the workforce desperately needs them. We see this in Virginia, and we see this all over the country, that we have these important technical jobs that are going unfilled because we're not training people in these areas. And that is a very, very important thing to me in a state that really needs more CTE. This is a panel that's about the employer's perspective. It is my hope that the HELP Committee and the Senate will get into Perkins Act reauthorization this year. Now, the Perkins Act is probably my favorite piece of federal legislation because it's not siloed. There's a lot of things we do that silo into, this is about K-12 or this is about higher ed, but Perkins money can basically be used for middle schools or high schools or colleges or community colleges or non-traditional programs, and a good deal of flexibility is given to the governors of the states to determine how to allocate the monies. And we're going to be working on the reauthorizations of the Perkins Act. It is my hope this year. We're trying to see how much work we get done in a presidential year, but Perkins to me is something that doesn't seem to be harshly partisan. We ought to be able to come together and find a path forward. Today, what we're going to hear is from an employer's perspective. Fortune favors the bold, and each of these employers have their stories of, they want to run their businesses, they need skilled folks, and rather than waiting around to hope that they show up from a one ad, they are actually being very proactive in going out and doing innovative programs, often in tandem and in partnership with educational institutions, to make sure that in their, whether it's a business or a broader industry, they can get these skills that they need. And it's so critically important. We have done a disservice to I think education and what education should be by basically saying that everybody after high school has to go to college. Everybody needs after high school skills or academic credentials that are validated and high quality. Everybody needs that in today's workforce, but it doesn't always have to be a traditional college. Last thing I'll say, and then you're going to hear from, I think you're going to hear both from Senators Portman and Baldwin as part of the discussion today. We still have a lot of educational policies that are stuck in an archetype of an old way where career and technical education was kind of second class. I'm going to give you two examples, one of which we've got legislation to try to tackle. If you're active duty military, I have a son who's an infantry commander in the Marine Corps, you get a tuition assistance benefit. And if you say, hey, I'd like to do this course of study, and your commander says that's relevant, you can get it up to $4,500 a year. Has to be at a community college or college. So say your military MOS, occupational specialty, is ordnance, and you've had metalworking and welding training in that specialty, and you say to your CO, I don't need $4,500. Give me $300 so I can pass the American Welding Society certification exam. Sorry, you can't do that. The military tuition assistance program was set up with kind of a stereotype that college was high quality and other things weren't. And that's actually, you pass the AWS certification, you can take that at Fort Lee and move to, in Virginia, and move to Portland tomorrow. People know what that certification is. They might or might not know about the community college where you attended and got a semester of coursework. The second area where, and this is one that we're trying to solve the first one through the NDAA process, but the second area where we need legislation is a bill that we have in called the Jobs Act, Jumpstart Our Businesses. And the Jobs Act basically goes into the Pell Grant program. Now, here's what Pell Grants do. You income qualify for a Pell Grant, that's great, but the course has to be 14 weeks long, the length of a traditional college semester. Well, what about a high-quality, super intense, 8 hours a day, 8-week-long course, which is more common if you get into some specialized career and technical training? Sorry, you can't get a Pell Grant for that. I mean, even if it's fully accredited, even if it's in a skill area where there are jobs in your community that need you, sorry, it's not a college semester, so you can't get a Pell Grant for it. So we're trying to change the Pell Grant to allow, in this Jobs Act, is to allow Pell Grant to be used if students' income qualify for high-quality CTE. Part of what we need to do is advance, and part of what we need to do is to go into old policies where there is this kind of a second-class notion about CTE and just clear away some of the obstruction or old thinking about CTE. And that's why we have this caucus. The caucus is to encourage the president to do things, and we've worked very well with the administration. It's to do legislation. A number of pieces of legislation that were introduced from the caucus got rolled into ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and we're going to work on Perkins. But the other thing we want to do is just educate folks around here so that all of our staffs, and you know, your guys are the brains of the operation, so that you can be thinking of ideas. And I know that you're going to hear something today from these employer reps about their particular experiences in tackling workforce challenges that will give you some ideas. I'm kind of particularly happy because there is one of the guys you're going to hear from that I invited, which is Ed Dalrymple. Ed has a fascinating story about asphalt paving and the lack of trained people in the asphalt paving world and the way they're dealing with that, which is, hey, we just passed a big transportation bill. We're going to be doing a lot of road construction out of this transportation bill for the next 5 years, but we don't necessarily have the workforce to do it. How is this industry tackling that problem? You'll hear that story and other great stories in the panel, and I hope you have a great afternoon. Thanks so much, and thanks for doing this. Thanks for participating.